We are just 2 weeks away from the Tier 0 Ishizu tier format, and now a new ban list dropped. So let's go over some of these cards because they do have a massive impact for this upcoming format. If you still need a beautiful playmat, go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code Solemn for a discount. There's these beautiful ones, and there's also deck boxes available of these. Use the code Solemn for a discount. So this is a Forbidden Unlimited list. Some pretty big hits on here. Some are also too soft, but as we know, Master Duel likes to take things slow. They do like a little hit and a little hit and a little hit because they can ban every month. So right here, first of all, what we love to see, we have the 3 floodgates. Fog these things. In my opinion, Yu-Gi-Oh is at its best when you have an engine versus an engine playing it out. You trade interactions with each other's decks in their own different ways. Not just going flip skill drain, haha, you can't play. Even if you put this in a weaker deck, you're still playing a weaker deck, and the better decks usually have outs to it. And if they don't, now they need to draw the out for it. It's just very cringe. Floodgates are almost never good for the game from a skill expression perspective. And so yeah, I'm happy to see them lowered even more. Maybe one day they'll all be gone. However, way more importantly is this. Herald of Orange Light to 1. Herald of Orange Light was actually a crucial card in the Ishizu tier mirror. In early stages of the format, some people were trying to cut these, including me, because sometimes you're like, oh damn, I want to cut this card. But if you're being honest with yourself, this had to be a 3-off because you just play through hand traps like no tomorrow. It gets rid of your opponent's Dweller, it gets rid of your opponent's interaction. If they have like a DD Crow or a Bestial, if they end up coming out, you just herald them, you start playing on your opponent's turn. And so seeing this go to 1 is actually a real hit to the Ishizu tier deck. But even at 1, you will still play it. It is still a powerful hand trap that makes you play on your opponent's turn. So yeah, solid hit. Now, of course, some people were hoping we would see Ishizu cards on here already, but that's just too soon. They pre-hit it, so people bought packs. If they would then instantly nuke it, people would get upset. People wouldn't spend money on packs anymore, and so this is the next best thing, I guess. We also have tier coming, but we don't know how many hits will be on the tier engine, so maybe it'll be fine. We'll see. Next, a hit to the Flu map. I'm very confused on this one. Flu wasn't really oppressive anymore with the barrier statue gone, so why is this necessary? Pretty sad. Even though I'm not a big Flu fan, I'm just like, this archetype is no longer unfair, so why would you hit them? Next, we have Runic Fountain to 2. This is so dumb. Like, the most played, most powerful variant of Runic is Runic Sprite. The best deck is Sprite. So why would you put Runic Fountain to 2 when that card is already played at 2 in Runic Sprite? Like, all you did was do a little tap boop, on the Floodgate variant, but people are already off the Floodgate variant. It's now Runic Sprite that's the better deck. So this hit is just nonsensical. Then we have Runic Tip to 2. This is a hit to the consistency of the deck. And okay, cool, but it's definitely not enough. Like, the fact that Runic Fountain is at 2 means, okay, we are still playing the Runic Engine. Like, Runic Fountain at 2 and plenty of the spells still at high copies, we are playing the Runic Engine. Shit's insane. Of course, I do think the Shufflers completely make this deck pointless. Like, we've seen Runic decks now starting to play the Shufflers just to counter the Shufflers, and while that deck is very strong for sure, the only reason they're forced to do that is because they would scoop to Shufflers otherwise. Regardless, I think once Ishizu tier comes out, the tier element deck will have those Shufflers set up so often because they're always milling like 11 on their turn, sometimes more, especially if they end up having Chaos Rulers still, maybe with a Punk Engine and so forth. They might mill like 18 times or something. So they will have more Shufflers. So you will use Shufflers to stop their Shufflers, but they will end up having still more Shufflers and you will lose to it. So in my opinion, once tier is here with the Ishizu cards, this is not actually a deck anymore anyway. But regardless, if you're actually afraid of Runic, this is too light of a hit. But maybe they did a light hit exactly because they know in 2 weeks tier is coming. Then we have Necrophase to 2. Now, some people might not be aware of this, but basically there is currently a pile deck in Master Duel that uses the Ishizu cards and grass and all of that good stuff to mill 1 billion cards and deck your opponent out. Now, funnily enough, I predicted that we would get some type of graveyard pile with Ishizu cards even without tier elements being out, and people were saying, oh, you're coping, no, it's gonna suck until tier comes out, you're clickbaiting. Nope. Ishizu cards are just that crazy, and so that spawned like a really ridiculous deck. And so, you know, auto winning with Necrophase is really cringe because you don't really get to interact with it at all. So putting it to 2, okay, okay, that's a start, you know, that's all right. Thunder Dragon Hawk to 2 is not that big of a deal. I'm a Thunder Dragon enjoyer myself. I like to splash that engine in a variety of decks, but this doesn't really change much. Then we have the Multi-Faker. Okay, I'm sure some Trap enjoyers are fine with that. Then we have Oviraptor. I'm sure some Dino enjoyers are fine with that. I do like about Master Duel how they will often, like every month basically, go, oh, here's some extra cards. They're not really doing anything, but maybe you can enjoy them. Cool. Then we have Super Poly to 3. This is a huge one. If you haven't played a TCG with Ishizu tier, this card was actually very defining in that matchup. Now, some people weren't playing it because they were opting to play even more Bistchels and stuff like that, but since Bistchels are maybe not out, I'm actually not sure. But without Bistchels, but even with Bistchels, I would still play this, honestly. But without Bistchels, this card defines that matchup constantly, because what you will notice is you will stop your opponent's tier names from happening in the graveyard. Like, you will stop them from fusing, essentially. Maybe with a DD Crow, maybe with a Herald, even though that's only at 1, maybe with a Shuffler. But they can then chain Super Poly, fuse away a tier on their name, then fuse away a tier on your field, make their own Kit Kalos out of that, and then they're back in the game. And then that tier triggers, and then your opponent's tier will probably trigger as well, but then whatever they summon, you might pop with Perlerino, which is, you know, the field spell. So for that reason, Super Poly was like a really big deal. Also, if your opponent like negates a tier on your board, you know, they might do like an Imperm or the Continuous Trap Sulic. It will go like, ha, negate, and you will go, oh, Super Poly, the card's gone, it's not negated, and I get an extra fusion. So Super Poly was a really good card to push through your opponent's negates. But there's more. Beyond being like an aggressive card, it was also a defensive card, because you would be able to go like, if they end on Rule Colossus plus Abyss Dweller, those two can actually fuse together for a Mud Dragon. So your opponent puts up the typical Rule Colossus Abyss Dweller board, you go, ha, Super Poly, and they lost. Every time they would lose to that. For that reason, Super Poly was like really instrumental in that matchup, and so we will probably see it played now. That's probably also why they put it in at 3 again. Maybe they're like, damn, this Ishizu tier deck is going to be so crazy. We're going to give this card, which does help tier, but also hurts tier a lot. If you can start using Super Poly on Rule Colossus Dweller, that's a huge deal. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that the Kaleido Heart cannot be used for fusion material. So sometimes you might go, haha, I'm gonna Super Poly that fusion away, but you actually cannot. This card coming to 3 from 2 is pretty important, because now non-fusion decks might still consider playing a Mud Dragon just to use this as a board breaker against tier. So while it helps tier, it also hurts tier. Next we have Divine Wind of, I don't think that matters. Galatea to 3, I don't think it matters either. Again, I like Orcust, I like all these dark piles, but not the biggest deal in my opinion. Though I would love if I'm wrong on this one. Maybe it does matter. Then we have Spellbook of Judgment. Alright. We haven't seen spellbooks do too much. And then we have the Spiral Quick Fix. Okay, I'm not instantly seeing anything major happening from these bottom 4. So in conclusion, basically Super Poly, hit to tier, but also helping tier. Necrophase, cool, stopping the pile mill a little bit. Runic Tip and Runic Fountain, very soft hits to Runic. I don't think it matters. Map, very sad about it for Flu players. Herald, big hit to the Ishizu tier deck. And Floodgates are minimized even more. That's awesome. So overall, list, pretty decent. Would it have been cool to see more? Sure, but I think in terms of like soft lists, it is a pretty fine one. However, let me know your opinion in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts there. Be sure to like, subscribe, and if you still need a beautiful playmat, again, you can use the code SOLEM for a discount at zerodamagegaming.com. I will see you soon. Ciao.